Welcome to the Rachele and Cassandra show. Before we begin, our disclaimer. Rachele and Cassandra aren't attorneys or financial advisors. They are, however, licensed in their respective professions.
Hey, welcome to episode
Hi.
whatever number we're on. Hi. So
this is a pretty general, not specific, guest-free episode,
That's
which
funny.
we haven't had in a while, but we'll keep it short.
I was going to say, in non-typical Rachele and Cassandra fashion, we want to talk about what the market's doing right now. And you're going to see this episode a little bit later than today. What is the date? July
22nd.
22nd. So by the time this episode goes to publication, is that what it's called? Publication? Grant?
Syndication. No. By the time it releases, it's just a release.
Okay. By the time it releases.
Wait, we're syndicated now? I mean, we have come so far, Rachel.
You're kind of a big deal, Cassandra. Anyway.
Well, I've always known that,
but now the rest of the world gets to know, though. I knew it too. By the time this actually is hitting your ears, lovely, friendly listener, it's going to be a little bit old, but our expectation is that it will still be relevant. And even years down the road, from a high level view, talking about market shifts is important. It's important to pay attention to the context that you're buying or selling a home in. And that's what we're going to talk about today, because the market is doing different things than it has been doing for the last 24, 48 months. Mm-hmm. So I would like to
see. I know what I see, funny. But what do you see?
I want to start with what you see, but mine's probably going to be shorter, I think.
Well, I don't want to trample on all your stuff.
No, you first. You first.
Okay. No, you. Okay. So me first. So yes. As a lender, I only see winning offers, right?
Yes.
I only see an offer that wins the deal. So I am seeing less giving by the buyers. Buyers are not paying the seller costs, which they were. They are getting more accepted FHA and rural development offers. So it's not just conventional cash. I'm not seeing as many guaranteed appraisal overage covers.
Yep. Appraisal guarantees.
Clunky word. Yeah. Appraisal guarantees. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So appraisal over coverage. Anyway. Wow. So anyway, better for the buyers. The market seems to be, I believe they call it softening, which means it's a bit more even keeled. So a few months ago, it was high sellers market. Sellers were getting everything they asked for and then some. Name my firstborn child is basically what the buyers were doing. And so now it's a little bit more even. Homes prices, fucking God, Cassandra, home prices are still really high, but all of the extra minutia that is part of the puzzle seems to be more level.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Boy, did I put words on that. What do you think?
Can you guys hear the clapping? You did a fine job. I love it.
Oh, boy.
So, yes.
Yes, I think so.
Yourself included. You stay in here. You're in the trenches with us at this point.
Yeah, you stay in.
Okay. So, everything you said matches what I'm seeing. And I know the market is doing a thing. We have two opinions that match. It must be factual, right?
It's real life.
So, as far as addressing the winning offers that you said, you're saying it is a softening of a market, or it's in I'm going to have problems with words now. It's contagious.
So sorry. I gave it to you. Words. How do they work?
I know. It's in the air too. Okay. I have a theory. It's not even a theory. It's what's really happening. 6 months ago when I comped a house, I would comp out, let's take house X, whatever fucking 123 Main Street, everybody's favorite address in real estate.
My favorite house on the planet.
6 months ago when I comp that house, to comp a house, I have to look backwards at what sold. The numbers would tell me this house was worth $300,000. I put the house on the market at $300,000, and the insane number of qualified buyers with access to cheap money, the volume of buyers would come in and you'd have 15 hypothetical buyers trying to buy the same house. Now, fast forward to today, when I comp that house, all of those insane offers have closed. The properties have sold. The appraisal guarantees have been covered. So that house that was listed at 300 6 months ago and sold for 350 now shows as a comp at 350. So when I list that house at 350, it is more accurately representing the likely sale price. So that fact, coupled with the increase in interest rates. So instead of 15 people who can afford to buy this house and are all trying to buy it, now there's only 6 people that can afford to buy this house and are trying to buy it. And they are,
because rates are double and
yes,
the purchase price is 50,000 more.
Yes. And they are, they're beleaguered because many of these buyers were trying to buy houses.
Good word. You got a calendar? Good
Thank
job.
you.
Seriously.
I want a star. Give me a star. Okay. So hear me out. These buyers, many of the remaining 6 who can still buy a house, were looking at a 350 6 months ago and getting their asses handed to them. They weren't winning. Oh, by the way, now their interest rate is higher, so their payment on that 350 is going to be higher. They are watching the property sit at 350 to make sure it's not going to sell for 375 because the environment that they've been in for the last 6 months has trained them to expect the good ones to go fast. Not really accounting for the fact that comping a property today more accurately reflects the likely sale price. So what I'm seeing is if I put a property on the market, and I'm seeing this with my listings, I put a house on the market and not much is happening that first weekend. Buyers are sitting back and waiting to see if it's going to get snatched up at crazy rates that they can't compete in.
Should they even go?
Crazy terms. I shouldn't say rates. Yeah. Yes. And if it's still there after that first weekend, then they're coming out of the woodwork with their, on paper, I don't want to say less desirable finance types, but compared to cash with shit tons of coverages for appraisals, coming in with a mortgage with a few strings is less desirable. So if you're watching a property, and you can write a normal offer. You don't have to let them name your firstborn.
I was just going to say the offers with strings. I'm just going to go full circle, not just buyers and sellers, but people in my profession. So those offers with strings are an immense amount more work for a loan officer, just as an aside. So while I have had 20 files at a time for the past 2 years, with files that have these strings, it's a lot more work. And there's a lot of people in my industry leaving
because they don't know how to do the work.
They don't know how to do it. It's not easy pickings, right? It's, everybody can pick the apple off the tree. We're getting some bruised ones on the ground or whatever that fucking scenario is.
That analogy almost works.
Almost. There's a lot of loan officers and underwriters also being fired or leaving because it's not easy fucking money. And I would imagine that there will be some realtors who don't renew their license as well because it's a little bit thicker to navigate these waters.
Yep. And I want to make sure and barf this information into the conversation. On one of my listings I put up, didn't see the activity, like way less than I even thought, knowing what I know. So I recomped it and asked some of my peers that I respect to look at it. The numbers point to it's priced correctly. But in my research, what I saw is
Did you do your own research?
I did my own research. What I saw is in the last month, there's been a 41% increase in listings inside of 1 month in this particular area. And I have listings falling from the sky right now. And I think that everybody who had this idea in their head that they had this fake money in the value of their house, they never locked it in. So they're like feeling like a baller because they've got $200,000 in equity. Well, that's not real. And they're looking around, and I'm physically looking around this room I'm in, but they're looking around, they're looking backwards at the peak. And it feels like because houses aren't selling for $25,000, $50,000 over asking, that the market is softening. I would contend that the net result is actually the same and the market is normalizing. you actually have a chance to buy a house now.
Yeah. And I was just going to say that we've talked about that, equity in your house isn't real until you make it real. It isn't real until you get a HELOC and take the money out. It isn't real till you sell your house. It's
just like
paper money. It's phantom money.
It's being upside down on your house isn't real until you stop making the payments and you go to foreclosure. Like the environment, the context that you're buying and selling in. It's funny. I have a particular buyer who also needs to sell, who in their mind is trying to sell their house in the market 2 months ago, but wants to buy as though it were 2007. Like they're like, will they take $50,000 less for that house that just went on the market 2 weeks ago? No, probably not. But we want to, max out the list price of our house. Anyway, we're 11 minutes in.
You need it too. Don't we all?
They do. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's hard. It's stressful. But just know that the market is changing. It's not crashing. Call it softening. I'd call it normalizing, because a healthy real estate market has 6 months of inventory-ish. And right now we're running at about 1.5 months of inventory, which is still insanely low.
Right.
You're just not going to list your property for an appropriate sale price and get $50,000 over asking with 15 people trying to give you that and more. It's going to be a more normal buy sell process.
I will speculate that the Fed raising the rate, the Fed rate, which does trickle down. It's not a direct correlation to mortgage rates, but it is a rate that directly affects what everybody can borrow at, right? Whether a car loan, financing for credit cards, things like that. So them doing that, and they did that for inflation, to try to slow inflation and slow people down from fucking buying everything under the sun or whatever. We're seeing that sort of start to actually take effect, because there's less borrowers, there's less people who are needing to buy a house. Like, it's easy to buy a $400,000 house at 3%.
Well,
okay. Do you want to buy a $400,000 house at 6%? A few months later, people feel like they're getting scammed or hosed, or they made their move too late. So it's really interesting to, in real time, see such a drastic punch for those changes.
Well, and we also, let's move this over to a place where maybe it would more accurately illustrate how this is kind of helpful. Low interest rates, especially for second homes or investment properties, means you've got all of this other ancillary competition for that house that you're trying to put your family in.
And we're already having a housing shortage.
Right. So when you have like Johnny homeowner who wants to be an investor, who can also borrow cheap money for his second home to try and turn it into an Airbnb, that's now somebody that you have to compete with to buy the house you're trying to put your family in. And if you're walking in with an FHA mortgage because you've got a family situation and you've got bills, and here this guy has, liquid cash plus a great credit score and cheap money, you're losing. So now I would argue that this increase in interest rates actually presents an opportunity, to a degree, for people who need homes to actually get into homes.
Yeah, I kind of love it.
The mindset of the seller needs to catch up, and it will get there. But
yeah, I kind of don't mind, because this sounds really shitty. Well, I don't mean it to sound shitty. I have a lot of really grateful borrowers who feel like they finally now have a chance, because they're not competing against an investor. They're not competing against somebody who's buying a second home that they're going to, on the back end, make income off of it. They're literally competing with humans.
Other home buyers.
Yes. Yeah. And it's really nice. They're so happy to even still have a chance to buy a house. It's been
not
wonderful.
Only that, they can write an offer that has reasonable terms that protect them. Mm-hmm. They now have the ability to reasonably expect to be able to do an inspection, respond appropriately to the inspection results, use the appraisal as what it's intended for. Well, and what it's intended for. It's supposed to be an independent assessment of value by someone who's not tied to the outcome of the transaction. Because I'm vested in fighting for my client. you're vested in, well, what are you vested in fighting? No, you just have to fill the boxes, right? I don't know.
I'm a fiduciary advocate. Yes, all I do is fill boxes. You're totally correct.
No.
I don't lose sleep at night.
No. That's not what I meant.
I'm fucking with you.
I almost automatically assigned you the same fiduciary obligation that I have to represent in an agency capacity the best interest of my client above all else. Like, that's my only job, is to back my client's play and then win. It's a little bit different than your fiduciary obligation.
Yeah, my fiduciary obligation is to the buyer and the transparency and the best terms for them.
Yeah.
Present all options, present all rates, whatever. I won't get into that. We're talking about the market and how that shift is very visible now.
And it feels weird while you're in it.
Yeah, it feels weird. To shift, you just gotta go ahead, pivot.
I hate that word. I was gonna ask if I can quote myself, and I want to take a picture and turn it into a meme. Oh my
fucking God. I hate that. I know I hate it. I do. But yes, what does Rachel Evers have to say about this subject?
I know. Okay. I'm not even 100% sure I made this up. But
I hope you quote yourself wrong.
I do too. I hope that somebody else goes, Rachel, you didn't say that. You never know the value of something shitty while you're in it. You can only look back. It's hindsight is 20/20. It's just different words.
Just with swears.
Yeah, you always got to add a good swear.
That's right.
Anyway.
Hits home.
All right. Peace out, bitches.
I think we're good with the market update.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
The info given is current as of this recording, but remember, the market changes and real estate is hyper local.